Happy weekend, nerds! It's Saturday, which means it's a brand new episode of Anime Streaming Showcase, and today we are going to look at one of my favorite shows that is one of those that sort of transcends generations and is sort of appealing to all ages. And despite the namesake, I assure you, it is pretty adult-oriented at times, and that's Digimon Tamers. So let's just hop right into our brand new episode, alright? The Digimon franchise is celebrating its 20th year anniversary, and I'd think it thoughtless to not take the time to discuss my personal favorite of the franchise, Digimon Tamers. Digimon Tamers continues the established trend of kids receiving powerful digital creatures to befriend from the previous Digimon Adventure anime, but it tweaks it by throwing it into a completely new world universe with new characters to set itself apart from the more cheery Digimon Adventure series. Certainly not to take anything away from Adventure and what it had laid for a solid groundwork, Digimon Tamers is simply an alternative take on the idea of the premise. Digimon Tamers' standalone adventure is much more different and even a tad bit more subdued than anything Digimon Adventure aimed to present. Adventure introduced its 7 protagonists right from the start, whereas Tamers builds to an eventual group very slowly over its 51 episode run. Our main hero is Takato, who lives in a world where Digimon are real and are part of a game that actually kids play as a hobby or even competitively. He creates his own Digimon who comes to life in the real world and is soon enough learning that his new friend Guilmon isn't the only real Digimon actually inhabiting his own town or the world. Soon enough, Takato has formed a team with fellow Tamers Rika and Henry, who all understand the greater risks at stake regarding the mysterious Hypnose Agency and their world's safety. Now, on the surface, it's safe to assume that Digimon Tamers has a similar setup to many shonen anime that have young kids in charge of saving the world, but it's when you get deeper into Digimon Tamers, especially the creation behind their series, there are several components that start showing that it's far from typical shonen fare. Writer Chiake J. Konaka, storyteller on Razefan and Serial Experiments Lane, wanted to present a more realistic, almost undisturbed actuality of Digimon. Morals are essentially tied to humans, and they're hardly a universal concept for other species, at least not to our knowledge. Konaka sought to demonstrate that Digimon are wild creatures that are uncivilized and primitive creatures that are only tasked to, as the name implies, evolve and survive. And Konaka's visions and desires are more relevant from the start of the series, but they truly gain more traction nearer to the middle and the end of Tamers. Death and tragedy are portrayed too, and although it's not too dark and somber for kids, it's actually there to showcase the reality and the serious nature of death to children. Of course, it's still hardly a gruesome scene when it happens in terms of what's actually shown on the screen, but Digimon Tamers is already a rather visceral show, and it's implied more than shown. It's hard to argue, though, that Konaka's implementations on Digimon Tamers weren't influential on the genre and other series that followed when so many other series followed its blueprints. Next to the more recent Digimon Adventure Tri film series it's currently airing, Tamers has the most mature and perhaps darkest take on the children's toys come to life and then must save the world genre that is specific usually to the shonen demographic. There are certainly other anime or manga out there that go darker or present the same dreary, almost nihilistic themes like Narutaru, Bokurano, and even Neon Genesis Evangelion. But Tamers was technically and specifically designed for the shonen demographic. Now, I personally haven't checked out much of Konaka's other work. I have seen Narutaru, but I have heard high praise for Razefan and Serial Experiments Lane. I do actually enjoy a more nihilistic, slightly pessimistic story sometimes, and I think I could get that from more of his works. And I occasionally like the antagonist actually winning and succeeding over the heroes to require them to persevere and return to prominence rather than the power of friendship and rainbows that seemingly most shonen stories tend to introduce as some deus ex machina to save the day. Digimon Tamers stands atop the Digimon franchise as my personal favorite, as well as being the most recommendable to outsiders. I'd even concede that the previous 2 series, the Digimon Adventure and Digimon Adventure 2, before it are worth the go too, but if someone only had one time for out of the series, I'd have to give it to Tamers, and it has some teeth to it, which it left a lasting impression on me more than the previous 2 series and anything that came after it. I'd easily give it to Tamers, hands down. Tamers is currently available on most streaming services dubbed. I have not found it subbed anywhere. Netflix, Hulu, and Crunchyroll are all hosting it, so it's widely available. Oddly though, if you're looking for it on Netflix, it's still under the Digimon Digital Monsters banner. Like if you search Digimon Tamers, you will not find it. It's kind of just an obnoxious thing on Netflix's part. An additional other Digimon shows are there, along with Adventure, Adventure 2, and Digimon Cross Wars is also up there on Netflix. So there's plenty more. If you enjoyed Tamers, there's more to see from this franchise. If we're on the subject of Digimon, naturally Pokemon is almost the other series that gets thrown in with it, and they're almost inseparable at this point. But here is how I would define those 2 series, or if I had to say which is better, I would personally say this is my whole mindset when it comes to Digimon versus Pokemon. Digimon is greater than Pokemon in terms of anime, and Pokemon is greater than Digimon in terms of video games. Obviously, the Pokemon anime is nearing like 1,000 episodes at this point, so it has obviously something to it that keeps it going and helps it maintain that existence. It's always a highest rated show in Japan when it airs, and there's a reason it's still going. And it's not to say that it's bad, it's just Digimon typically has a more structured feel to it, and it's a little bit, obviously, considering each series, there's more complexities as well as a completeness to each story, whereas Pokemon, it's just kind of like, okay, well, a new game is out, we're going to finish up this arc and move on to the next game / arc. And there is some quality to Pokemon, but in terms of anime, I'd give it to Digimon every time. But I will say, in terms of video games, Pokemon has it, but if you can find it, go play Digimon World. It is an absolute mess of a game. It is kind of ugly. It is so far gone from what the original series anime had, and it almost seems like it was made for another game, and they were like, well, we just got to make this a Digimon game, so let's put Digimon in it. It's kind of a mess, but it holds a super special place in my heart as being one of the first PlayStation games I ever bought with my own money, and a game that there's something about it that I hate it so much, but I love it so much. It's a very weird relationship that I have with that game, and there's not really much else that I like about it. It's just it's a weird game. But I do love it so much. So yeah, if you can find it, by all means, give it a shot and let me know what you think. It's something special. Alright nerds, that's it for this week's episode of Anime Streaming Showcase. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you go and check out Digimon Tamers. It is a pretty terrific series, I think. Once you get past the sort of childlike aspect, there's a lot more there to that series than most people give credit for, I think. But as always, thanks so much to the Laser Time guys. Be sure to check out lasertimepodcast.com. They got tons of articles going up every day. They got tons of streams over on their YouTube page, VG Empire, Laser Time, of course, Video Game Apocalypse, Cape Crisis, Cheap Podcast. All their podcasts are there. Bonus Time if you're Patreon. Go give it to their Patreon. They deserve it. They're hardworking dudes. Chris is sincerely one of the coolest dudes I've ever met in my life, and he is one of the hardest workers I've ever met as far as someone who's doing this for a living. He kills himself figuratively to get all of this out to you, and he deserves something in return. I know it sounds like I'm filleting him, but he deserves it. He's been a help to me too. He allows me to put this up on his website, and I can't thank him enough for that. So, Laser Time Podcast, awesome. Go check out their website, leave a comment, like, subscribe, fun things, all that stuff that people tell you to do. I'm not going to be the one to tell you to do that stuff every time. But yeah, I will see you next week for an episode of Anime Streaming Showcase.